What's up everyone, my name is Benjamin Abba. I'm a Metro blogger and freelance writer coming to you with my thoughts on the best and worst of this week's nerd culture. So, top of the list would have to be the Eurogamer Expo, which I visited last weekend with some friends, hence why this video is a little bit late, because we were getting our hands on the next generation consoles. If you've never gone to the Expo before, essentially it is a trade show where all the biggest upcoming games and consoles are thrown into a hall together so the public can have a go on them. As you can see from my metro.co.uk blog or the general Metro gaming page, my impressions of the next gen, the PS4 and the Xbox One, generally really quite positive. For me, Killzone Shadowfall exemplified everything that's great about, say for instance, the PS4. Because it's not necessarily the graphical heft that will get you when you first sort of see it, because it's really not that much of a leap over the PS3 or the 360, at least at first. The things that really grab you are the little details, say for instance the creases, the individual creases on a soldier's clothing that's modelled in full 3D. The textures of even the floors, where usually they'd be painted on, they'd be flat. This one has sort of individual sort of pitted mud and that's glistening in the rain, and sort of the individual cracks in walls or the scratches on your guns. And this is for everything, just every single item, say be it character, be it weapon, be it sort of just even random rock that's lying on the floor. Everything is so detailed, it is insane how much love and care has been put into this, and it really shows how much that system can cope with, because with all of that happening with sort of, I think it was 16 players, sort of all going at it with sort of lots of explosions, effects, particle effects, and with all those little details on top of that, it really shows how much the system can cope with, because if you tried that on, say, a PS3, it would just melt. It just wouldn't work at all. If you want to see more on Shadowfall, definitely check out metro.co.uk. As I said, I wrote up a preview on it. Something else that I wrote up previews on was probably my game of the show, actually, was Super Mario 3D World, which I wasn't expecting to love as much as I did, but I absolutely fell in love with that thing. Made by the same people who made Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2, it really has exactly the same sense of joy in and discovery in just experimenting and exploring. Every level is like a toy box where you can just mess about with it and really kind of explore it at your own pace, and it's very light-hearted, it's really cheerful, it's kind of like having a really nice mug of hot chocolate after coming in from the rain. It's beautiful to relax with, and the fact that you now have extra players, you can now have up to 4 players joining you, well 3 players joining you, 4 players overall, it really changes the tone, because while you're playing by yourself it's far more kind of, I suppose it's a bit slower, you can go at your own pace, whereas with 3 other people it's manic, because you're all rushing to get the best score, you're trying to get all the power-ups, all of the hidden coins, and there are so many hidden secrets. And it really gives a very fresh flavour to the kind of 3D Mario games which we've never had before, because we've had multiplayer in sort of the side-scrolling New Super Mario Bros. But this plays out very differently, because you feel like you're kind of let off the leash a little bit more, because instead of just being a side-scroller, it's very linear. This is, although it's not as perhaps as wide open as games like Mario Galaxy would be, it's still quite broad, so you can kind of go and do what you want, which is great. So I think that's probably my game of the show, followed by Tearaway, currently writing a preview for that. And that, I think really it's got Media Molecule, the developers who made that game, it's got them all over it, because it's full of charm, it's full of whimsy, and it's got a very imaginative way of getting around sort of very traditional genre tropes of sort of adventure platformers. This one is an exclusive to the Vita, and makes brilliant use of the rear touchpad, the front touchpad, the camera. Basically, instead of just sort of jumping normally with a button, that does come later, but at first you have to, you can only jump when you come to drums, which when you touch the rear touchpad, it bounces your character around. For instance, for dispatching enemies, instead of just jumping on them or hitting them, you've got to wait until they sort of fall over to pick them up and throw them at other enemies. Or, if you're in a specific area, you can reach with your fingers into the game and sort of pull your fingers about and knock them away. And it's that kind of originality and sort of creative thinking that really makes Tearaway stand apart, I think, from so many of the other games that were there at the Expo. And it's just a shame that more people weren't there seeing it, because there were very small queues. And again, genuinely, I think if you don't have a Vita, that is something you really need to be looking at. That's a good reason for getting one. Second thing I'd probably point to would actually be GTA 5. I've kind of put off talking about it until I played it a little bit more. Came out a few weeks ago. And while I wasn't necessarily immediately taken by the story, I felt it was fairly formulaic. It's exceptionally well written, and the characters are so strong and well characterised that you really have a great handle on them within minutes of meeting them. And just the ability to cock about is fantastic. Say the ragdoll effect of say when characters are falling over or falling off things is always hilarious. So even if you're just doing sort of a belly flop onto a crowd of people, it's just hilarious to watch. And the amount of stuff you can do that is just off the wall crazy is brilliant. I mean, for instance, me and my brother tried to, when he was visiting, we tried to land a helicopter onto a blimp. And then try and jump off the blimp and you know, see if we could sort of land onto any towers or anything, Batman style. It was great, and just again, it's a huge toy box for you to just do what you want with, and I think genuinely, while it's not necessarily my game of the year, it's definitely one of the best that we've seen for a long time this generation. It's really good fun. Finally, I suppose in my good list would be Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now I know a lot of people haven't really taken to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They've been saying it's boring, it's formulaic, and the characters are too smart-ass. But actually, I think personally, it's probably got off to it's got off to one of the sort of best starts that I think of any TV show I've seen recently. It's very, very Joss Whedon, who is the writer and director of The Avengers, and he wrote and directed the first episode of S.H.I.E.L.D. And it's him all over. It's very sharp dialogue, very witty dialogue, that genuinely will make you laugh out loud. The characters, even though they don't necessarily get sort of the most time to breathe, again, like GTA, you get a very good handle on them very quickly, and they're incredibly well characterised, incredibly well acted, and I think the action is really well done. You would tell it's a TV show, but certainly it's got a far bigger budget than, clearly, for its effects than most, because it looks great at every kind of moment, and its ambition is incredible. The episode this week, say, with a plane that had kind of a hull breach, and so people were being thrown out into sort of mid-air and being blown away, and kind of just it just looked it visually was very impressive for a TV show. And really intrigued to see where it goes, because there's so many different storylines which are that are very intriguing, which I have a feeling it's going to be quite predictable with some of them. Say, for instance, with certain characters, are they double agents, are they not? You know, we know kind of where that's going, and that's quite predictable, but at the same time it's still intriguing enough to keep you watching, and it's going to be really nice to see how the characters kind of cope with those revelations later on. I'm hoping that the newly announced DC TV show, Gotham, which has a look at the young Commissioner Gordon, well, before he's Commissioner Gordon, will hopefully be equally good, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm a bit less kind of hopeful about that one, to be honest, simply because while it's a fun idea to have a police procedural with supervillains, as many websites have mentioned, say for instance IGN has talked about this quite a lot, having Commissioner Gordon go up against villains like, who will become sort of super villains later on that Batman will have to fight, like the Riddler, like the Penguin, or perhaps even Joker. If he can take them down, then what is the need for Batman? So that's going to be a really, really kind of fine line for them to walk when they make that. And I think it'll also be really fascinating to see how it ties into the Man of Steel universe, if at all. Because we're still not sure whether Arrow, the other DC TV show, will tie into Man of Steel. We have no idea, so it's all still up in the air, and I'd love to see more details, so we can see how it all sort of comes together, and whether DC is going to build their expanded universe that way, because I think that would be a great idea. Instead of having lots of origin stories in film, we've seen all those before, let's just do it in TV instead. Okay, so now we're going to get to the bad, and I'm going to seem like a huge hypocrite here, but Eurogamer is also top of my bad list, simply because while it was enjoyable and it was good fun, the queues were insane. It was so busy, it was hideously busy, and to be honest, I got more done in the last 2 hours than I did in the first 3, simply because people were starting to leave. And say for some games like Titanfall or Battlefield 4 or say the PS4 games, you had to wait up to like sometimes up to an hour just to play like a 10-minute demo. And it just doesn't feel worth it. If I was doing it for work, that's fine, and as I was writing for Metro, and that's really part of the reason why I was there. That's fine, but as a consumer, no, I would not want to do that again. It's just too busy. They need more booths with more games on them, so they can get people moving through it faster. And generally, or they just need to sell less tickets, because I think it really sucked the fun out of it, because there were so many people. It was so hot. It was just jostling with people at every single turn, and it's just lucky that we managed to get on a lot of the games that we did, and I think it was just because we managed to sort of sneak onto them while everyone was still queuing for the PS4 or for Titanfall. We managed to sneak onto things like Super Mario 3D World, the Legend of Zelda: Link Between Worlds, and that kind of thing. So, and one of the other things that got me with I suppose this week would be GTA Online. It doesn't really need any introduction, but if you haven't been following this, GTA Online is the multiplayer component of GTA 5, and it's broken at this point, really. For some people it's working great, and some people, you know, they're saying they're able to get in, they're having great fun playing with their friends, tearing up the town. But for a lot of us, say for instance, I've not been able to get in much, and when I did, it's broken. It's spawning, for instance, cars willy-nilly, it's the world is just disappearing around me. Did write a blog sort of going into more detail about that on Metro again, so yeah, if you want to sort of hear more of my thoughts on that, definitely check out my blog. I'm hoping that Rockstar North, the developers of GTA, will fix that soon, because I understand and I appreciate that it's easily the best-selling game ever, and it has a huge audience, and obviously that's going to be a big strain on servers, but I'm a bit disappointed they didn't see this coming, and the fact that it is so inherently broken at this point. I think really I'd like to see that fixed as soon as possible, and hopefully we'll get quite a big apology from them. Well, that's all for this week, so make sure you check back next Sunday, because I'll be posting a video hopefully every Sunday from now on. And if you want more in the meantime, then make sure you follow me on Twitter @TheWordyBen. And if you want even more than that, then you can always go and check out my podcast, which is over at www.artisticplaynetwork.com. It's also on iTunes and on SoundCloud. Hopefully I will hear from you soon. Take care, and I'll catch you later. Have a good one.